Well, welcome back to the Scott Learning Center for the second part of our conversation about planting and planting the 2021 corn crop. One of the things that's very important when we consider this is population. We talk about population in corn a lot because it's one of the primary driving factors of establishing the yield potential in cornfields that we need when we're trying to grow a commercial crop. When you think about the influence that has, there's a lot of conversation to be had that goes into the decision making of laying out a corn crop. The primary driver of yield in corn in the Delta and probably in most places is the surviving population that we establish in the field. All of the things that we do leading up to that, whether it's adjustment of planters, choosing the right hybrid, choosing the targeted population we're going to establish in the field, is leading toward that, trying to establish that number of plants in the most uniform position possible in the field. Our data long term at the Learning Center, and you have to take this for what it is because we represent one example of a fairly high yielding system here in the Delta. Our data long term says that there are a couple of curves that are responsible for this relationship. From 0 to about 28,000, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 10 bushels per 1,000 seeds planted. But that's not really the question because most folks plant up to about 28 or 30,000. The question is, can I justify any further investment in seed without incurring a great deal of risk by going higher? And in that range from 28 to 40, generally speaking, across all the products we evaluate, we observe and have documented a 3.5 to about 6 bushels yield gain from 1,000 more seed planted. Now you have to consider that carefully and think about the trade you're making. We're trying to make a trade between yield potential, the investment in seed, and standability. It's not appropriate to plant every product at the very highest population, nor is it appropriate to plant some of the products at lower populations. When you look at the data we've generated over the years, you'll see these things present in it. Some of the products respond very well to population and some don't. And I won't go into the individual products except to use a few of them over this conversation as examples when we move further into the next couple of slides. But you'll see that what I'm talking about generally in the data is there. We see a greater gain at the lower populations as we keep increasing, but in some products it still continues to go up even into the low 40,000s. Now there's some caution to be issued about that because you can't safely do that with all products or maybe any product. But if you're making a decision about seed and seeding population, consider that carefully because you can leave money on the table if you're not careful. Now, we talk about fixed versus flex to hybrids, and this is an issue that has lingered around the corn business for a very long time, and it's still there and it's still present. We have a lot of data that I will present a snippet of in the third video of this, but generally speaking, when we talk about fixed ear versus flex ear hybrids, the flex component is really the ability of the corn plant to make more yield when the conditions enable it. In other words, it's a mechanism of adaptation. We can and typically do use more flex type products in stressful environments, whether those are dry land or waterlogged situations and those kinds of things. We have done a lot of work here at the Learning Center over the years with these types of products, the range of them we had available to test. And what we have observed is that even in a sort of a flex type product, we are not able to compensate for skippy or reduced stands. We have done this to the extreme, even leaving out rows. We've gone out and simulated bird damage and all those sorts of things, and I'll show you some of that data in the next video. So when we think about the implications that has on the corn hybrids we choose to go out and plant, whether they're flexed or fixed, there's some subtle adjustments to be made. Most of the hybrids that we grow today are semi-flex or semi-fixed, depending on how you choose it and what you choose to lump into that. But generally speaking, the fixed type hybrids, the ones that lean that direction, should be planted at the higher populations. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we'll probably talk a little more in depth about that through the year, but products that come to mind in this, like examples of this would be DeKalb 7027. it generally speaking needs to be planted at higher populations, and it responds in yield when we do so. And that's done without incurring so much risk in standability. There's always some, but it's not extreme in that particular case. When you think about the flex type products, generally speaking, if they're outside that mid range, they should generally speaking be planted at the lower end of population, primarily due to standability concerns. That would include, an example of that would be 6744, DeKalb 6744. It is very well adapted in a lot of very stressful environments, but generally speaking should be planted on the low end of population. And when we do those things, we put the corns in the position of being able to optimize yield without incurring so much extra risk in a decision about population. And also we optimize our investment in seed. So I'll stop there today. We'll talk about a little data in the next video in this series. Thanks for watching. We're always here at the Learning Center. If we can help, feel free to give us a call or drop us an email.